Hey guys, Omni here. We are back for the final breakdown to catch us up for Hawkeye's first 3 episodes. We're about to jump into Eric Voss over a New Rockstars breakdown of episode 3 of Hawkeye. If you haven't seen my reactions to these episodes, all 3 are up on the channel right now. I'm just a little late getting to some of these. I just posted my reactions to the breakdowns and the Easter eggs for episode 1 and 2 because I was really busy last weekend. I didn't get a chance to do it, and I was out of town over the weekend as well in DC, so I'm catching up. We'll be on time next week, I promise. So that being said, guys, let's go ahead and jump into this breakdown for episode 3 of Hawkeye. And if you're not subscribed to New Rockstars, you better do so. Here we go.
Welcome back to New Rockstars. I'm Eric Voss, and this is a breakdown of Hawkeye episode 3, Echoes, which beautifully shifts perspective to Echo Maya Lopez, now confirmed to answer to a guy who probably crushes heads in car doors. Ugh. From Hawkeye's trick arrows to the clever camera work to the cryptic ways they make us say, Uncle!
Say Uncle!
There is so much to break down, so let's go back through this episode scene by scene for everything you might have missed. The episode opens with young Maya Lopez, I assume age 7 or so because their writing workbooks say grade 2. Darnell Bisa, who plays young Maya, looks significantly younger than the other kids in her class, which both makes us feel her intimidation while also hinting she's intellectually advanced for her age. 2007 is 5 years before the origin story flashback we saw for Kate Bishop, and even before Tony Stark became Iron Man in 2008-2009. This episode casts Maya as a parallel character to Kate, but with greater challenges in her journey as a similarly groomed child warrior. And by starting her path chronologically earlier, it casts Maya as a kind of soldier Kate could turn into if she sticks to the path her mom set out for her, but it also makes Maya a participant in a chapter of MCU history well underway before Tony Stark came out of that cave, as we also saw with Shang-Chi's backstory with the 10 rings. The camera work takes us inside of Maya's point of view as she reads her teacher's lips, at one point just showing the word words. But this girl is actually way ahead of us. She completed her worksheet where she wrote, games to play are solitaire and I spy, since she's often alone and has advanced observational skills. Also, she wants to learn how to play capoeira. That's the Brazilian martial arts style, showing this girl's ambition. And when we see adult Maya fighting later on, it seems like she's pretty well versed in it. Also, she writes she runs as fast as a dragon, and she even drew a pretty solid dragon on the worksheet. That puts adult Kate Bishop's doodles to shame. Speaking of dragons, Maya shadow puppets as a larger dragon head that eats the bird, or hawk, a shadow cast by her father, William Lopez, played by the amazing character actor Zahn McClarnon, whom you might know from his great roles in Westworld and Fargo, so many other things. You'll notice framed on her wall is a US Karate Semi-Finalist Achievement Award, meaning Maya's already fairly accomplished at this young age. And they talk about dragons.
No, maybe they are, but dragons live in a different world.
I love this scene.
That would make them stronger.
So this way, Maya ends up seeing herself as a unique being who must toggle between 2 worlds. You can also draw a connection to the Great Protector and Dweller in Darkness from Shang-Chi, both of which are powerful beings who have to toe the line between worlds. Now, I still think Kingpin is going to be the criminal element this series is leaning toward, but let's also keep our eye on the 10 Rings operation, which again was very active during these pre-Iron Man years. Maya asks her dad, yeah, it's implied that William might be in some sudden financial trouble connected to his work with the tracksuits and uncle. It's just another parallel to Kate Bishop, whose father similarly faced some mysterious financial hardship followed by his departure, and instead the girl being groomed by a more nefarious mentor. And you'll notice William has a chest tattoo of triangles arranged in a sun pattern. Later on, as an adult, Echo gets that same pattern stitched into her leather jacket as a way to tribute him. Then at the Brooklyn Karate Academy, one kid gets thrown to the mat. Nothing in this scene calls attention to this, but the credits of this episode list this kid as Little Kazi, meaning Maya and Kazi knew each other as kids. Also, a second tracksuit exits the building, while obviously their boss is there. So I think this school might be a training ground for young recruits of Uncle's organization. You can actually see how that second tracksuit is leading the instructor of this class outside, almost as if to have a chat, maybe about which kids are showing promise. The camera work cleverly masks Maya's right foot behind her backpack to make her prosthetic foot more of a reveal, then this Fisky moment.
Uncle will take you home after class. I'll see you tonight.
Yes, it definitely seems like Uncle is going to be revealed as Wilson Fisk.
It sounds
Kingpin,
like
at least
Vincent
going by the fact
D'Onofrio,
that
man.
Kingpin is the boss of the tracksuits and Maya Lopez in the comics that the show is based on. Also, this show's references to a head of organized crime and the location of Lot New York Palace Hotel, which in Daredevil season
I'm gonna let
3
him
is the
continue here
same
for a second.
hotel that Fisk buys. Also in this episode, Fat Man Auto Repair Shop, etc., etc. But in this specific shot, listen to the sound mixing. They give Uncle's footsteps heavier thuds compared to William's steps. And he's wearing a tailored suit with cufflinks, which Fisk in the Netflix series is famously proud of, but more than anything is his laugh.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you watch Law & Order Criminal Intent, you know this is D'Onofrio's laugh. Also something he every once in a while admits in an interview.
Did you finally get something to eat? I mean,
We wrapped.
okay.
That is so
Yes,
his laugh,
The
man.
high-pitched
I
chuckle, it just
but
sounds
I'm
to me
just
like
not
a
gonna get
possible
my
younger
hopes up.
2007
Not-
era
not
Wilson
get my hopes
Fisk.
up.
So we got to adult
Okay,
Maya.
anyway, okay, he didn't mention it. Okay, I don't even know. I'm taking this solely off the word of somebody else. So, because again, I mentioned this in one of the videos. I don't know ASL or anything like that, but like somebody had mentioned that when the father was signing to Maya Uncle, he included the words WF. In his signing for the words WF, which if that's the case, obviously that's Wilson Fisk. I hope so, man. I hope so. I hope this isn't just a shit show and it just goes somewhere else, man. I want so bad for Daredevil to be back, man, just in this universe and like Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio, because out of everything I loved from the Netflix shows, it was that show more than any of the others. Like the other shows had some great moments in them, particularly Jessica Jones and The Punisher. But as far as my favorite, it is hands down Daredevil, man. And it's so well done. It's borderline a masterpiece of like comic book television. I want it back. Anyway, here we go.
Alaqua Cox, now in a boxing gym. I did look for signs whether this could be Fogwell's gym of Matt Murdock.
That's what
but
I thought
I don't
too,
know if this
but
is even in New York
at
because
first,
there's
but-
like an Illinois state champion sign back there. But then she pulls up to Fat Man
But
Auto
it
Repair.
didn't look
Again,
the same to
assuming
me.
Trust a Bro Moving Company is an in-joke with the tracksuits, seems like a front that they might have named in honor of their own big boy Kingpin boss. Ronin slices his way through the tracksuits, a massacre shown in a long take from the outside in, just like his slaughter in Tokyo in Endgame. Though, we must ask, is this truly Clint? Or could Clint have actually inherited the Ronin assassin title, suit, and sword from a predecessor, who actually is this one here killing William Lopez, a predecessor like Jack Duquesne. And that could be why Jack wanted the Ronin sword so badly at that auction. Jacques Duquesne swordsman is Clint's past mentor in the comics, and this episode ends right before Clint turns to look at him. We will see, but I could also see the series just keeping Clint as the killer of Maya's father, just to keep that juicy tension between them. But Maya now finds her father mortally wounded. As in, fly away from this whole world of crime. Don't let the violence consume you. And he presses his bloody hand to her cheek, leaving a handprint face marking, just like Echo bears in the comics. This show rules! Then, episode title logo, unlike last episode, features neither of the two arrows hitting the target in the A, as this episode is less about Kate and Clint, the archers, and more about Maya. Now, the location of the tracksuit's hideout is an
Okay,
abandoned
that's a
candy
nice
toys
detail.
warehouse, which in real life went bankrupt in 2009.
Yeah.
And here in the post-apocalyptic MCU, there's no need for toys because children turn into dust and others turn into grown men who don't play with toys. You can see the tracksuit's Trust a Bro moving trucks parked out front, which actually, if you think about it, might be a good cover for them always saying bro. We're just quoting our business, nothing suspicious. But they also have this tagline, smile, you're moving. Of course these bros would tell people to smile. Hey, sweetheart, I'm shoving your bed frame down fire escape and singing Imagine Dragons. You should smile more.
Pivot.
You talk too much. Blah, 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 blah.
Maybe I rip out your throat.
Now remember, it was night before, now it is morning, meaning the tracksuits must have spent several hours toying with Clint and Kate on those riding machines that play Jingle Bells, of course reminding Clint of the Christmas with his family that he is missing. There are signs around this warehouse for liquidation sale, but one behind Clint reads, "Nothing held back." Kind of an odd choice of words for everything must go. Actually, there's a similar poster later that underlines this with "when it's gone, it's gone." Just sounds like a pretty bleak sales push for toys during the blip apocalypse. When things are gone, they're gone. Kate gives Tomas advice for the Imagine Dragons concert, again with the dragons this episode, and Maya, noticing Clint's hearing aid, cuts his hands free so that he can sign.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Hard of hearing, not deaf.
I love that they don't caption Maya's ASL when showing her from Clint's perspective, similar to how they captioned her teacher with words earlier. Also, Maya cutting his hands free so that he could sign is ultimately what enables Clint to escape, because then Kazi has to rush to rebind his hands behind his back, which is where Clint can use friction to cut himself free without them seeing. Clint claims the Ronin is dead.
So who got him then?
Yeah, Clint mouthed Natasha Romanoff, and he is telling a version of the truth here because he was on his violent path as the Ronin before Natasha found him and pulled him out of that life, effectively ending the Ronin's murder spree. After he breaks free, Clint hides among the empty toy stacks, making this the second time after Loki episode 2 that MCU characters on Disney Plus have hid from each other in a disaster-adjacent store setting. It's almost like these broken toys are being reshelved as merchandise to sell Disney Plus subscriptions. Am I reading too much into it? Clint pins Maya to the wall with two arrows, and then mid-jump, he slices an arrow past Kazi's ear to sever Kate's tape. Notice how this arrow and the other first few arrowheads are field tips, which are made for target practice, meaning that they're the least lethal penetrating arrowhead, just showing how Clint's objective here is to kill as few people as possible. All the stunts and specificity of Clint hitting the tracksuit's non-lethal zones, like their limbs, their shoulders, super impressive, especially Clint's no-look shot through the guy's hand, recalling his no-look strike on a Chitauri in the 2012 Avengers. But I do have to give credit to the background NPC. Yeah, you get that empty space. Now, outside, Kate wants to take the red Challenger, which is a lot like the car they drive in this chase sequence in the comics it's based on, but they subvert that instead with this Chrysler. Clint hotwires it.
Let's go!
Yes, more Christmas music. Here, the Dance of the Sugar Plum Fairy, which we hear later in the episode. And then when they bump the car, the track changes to Tripak, that's a Russian dance. Both of these songs from The Nutcracker, composed by Tchaikovsky, considered the most famous Russian composer. This Russian music scoring their escape from the Russian gang. Now, the amazing directors Burt and Bertie directed this episode, and they featured this 1-minute unedited rotating shot in the back seat of the car, which is a direct homage to Alfonso Cuarón's famous swivel shot during the car chase in Children of Men, one of my favorite shots in all of film. In that movie, they accomplished it by rigging a stunt car with a hole cut out of the roof with a camera hanging from the rigging above, which they may
Children
also
of Men,
do here.
though,
At one
that's
point,
like
you'll notice
a-
the camera
that's like a
switches to handheld
fantastic
as it
movie.
moves out the backseat window to follow Kate outside the car, and you can see a lens flare from the sun, which might be where they concealed a cut. And we get to see all of Clint's trick arrows, the first of which is a putty arrow. The next one's less tricky, it's really just a RPG. If you look closely in that car, there is just one guy in it, the driver, but yeah, Kate Bishop probably killed that dude. Next,
Yeah,
she
he's
fires a
fucking
plunger
dead.
arrow, which stays on the windshield of that car right until Clint needs it at the end of the scene. And then this wire release arrow that snares a bunch of Christmas trees to the truck. If you think of this in terms of comedic heightening, this is totally Home Alone, even with the Tchaikovsky music that John Williams totally ripped off for his score for Home Alone. And the bad guys are getting all sticky first, and then they get covered with Christmas decor. There's a reason we love this. Then Clint fires a Pimtech
This was
arrow
the
at a normal
best
arrow that Kate
one.
brings down, resizing it to be
Boom.
gigantic and somehow not destroying the suspension bridge. Of
How
course,
did that-
recalling Clint
yeah,
and
how did that
Ant-Man's
not
teamwork in Civil War.
destroy
This
that
arrowhead
bridge?
is stamped with the Pym logo, so Hank Pym himself must have engineered this and approved it. It glows blue, the color of the Pym resizing discs when they are set to grow mode. Like many of these goofy trick arrows, it just seems like all of Pym tech, contrasting Stark tech, was really designed to be less lethal in general. And perhaps Hank Pym is now the chief armorer of this faction of the Avengers. Clint gives her a USB arrow, which we saw a version of when Clint fired an arrow with a computer virus into the helicarrier in the 2012 Avengers. We also saw the USB arrow in the What If episode when
Yep.
they downloaded the Zola virus via Arrow. Yet when Kate Kate fires this arrow, it just bounces off Ivan's chest. I mean, even a USB tip with that momentum probably should have impaled him a little bit. There's something about this guy. Like when he broke the car window glass with his bare fist.
No.
I just think this dude has been juicing on something. Then Kate and Clint together leap off the bridge and turn toward us, recreating Hawkeye's
it would
big move
hurt.
that Kate
It would
witnessed from the Battle of
sting.
New
It's
York
not gonna,
in the
like,
opening frame
penetrate
from the Fraction
shit.
Aha comics. But here she grabs the bow and they do this in tandem, swinging down, this time sharing the power move as co-equal Hawkeyes, which Clint verbalizes in the subway car.
Oh, we gotta walk the dog. I'm not quite sure how long a dog can
Call
walk.
yourself one of the world's greatest archers.
Oh my God, you really think so?
Probably should walk the dog. Been cooped up all day.
Yes, they're still not properly communicating, and I love the poster behind them for family counseling, framing these two as their own kind of dysfunctional family.
That's a
unit.
nice little
Another Rogers
detail.
musical billboard appears, tagline, "Every Avenger brought to life," which feels a little cruel, both for the dead Avengers like Natasha and Tony, also for the ones who are still alive like Clint. And then another heartbreaking scene. Clint gets a call from his son, Nathaniel, to whom Clint says that he's gonna miss a Christmas movie marathon, but that hopefully he'll be there for ugly sweaters. So thinking about this, every day that goes by, Clint misses another pitch that one of his kids said at that dinner scene in episode 1. Nate wanted to do gingerbread houses, missed that. Now he's missing Lila's pitch of a movie marathon. And yeah, he's probably gonna miss Cooper's day.
Ugly sweaters?
Yeah, even more depressing when you consider that Clint spent 5 years of Christmases without his family. I'm not crying, you're crying. Kazi tells Maya, so Uncle didn't sanction their hunting of Ronin. If it is Kingpin, it would mean that he and the Ronin have a history and that he has specifically spent these past couple years hiding from the Ronin. Clint and Kate wait in Chinatown beside a sign reading Happy New Year 2020 something. Now there's a set photo angle of this that showed it was going to be 2025. That would have placed Hawkeye maybe in December 2024, or since really the Chinese New Year would be January 29th, 2025, maybe this sign is old and it's December 2025? I don't know. I've been burned trying to pin down timeline logic before in the MCU, and now with Hawkeye, there's some Marvel producer who said this was 2 years after Endgame, which would put it like in Christmas 2025, but I don't know if that producer was really thinking about it like that. I just think that confusion is why they cover up the year now in this shot. In the diner, Kate says,
My dad was fearless, and his whole life was about helping people.
Was it? I mean, clearly Kate has some hero worship for her dad, who probably wasn't that great of a guy. Another parallel to Maya, whose dad was also working for a criminal network. Now, the directors place the camera directly between the characters that force the actors to stare directly into the lens, makes us feel a little awkward, uncomfortable. Wes Anderson likes to use this a lot. Jonathan Demme used it in Silence of the Lambs between Clarice and Hannibal, just as a way to force the actors to feel that discomfort as they are acting across from a machine instead of a person. Helps underscore the awkwardness here. Clint feels awkward as Kate probes about the Ronin and him being a role model, and Kate feels awkward that Clint is stonewalling her. Kate doodles a costume redesign with a huge H on the forehead, like Hawkeye's look in the comics. Hawkeye scoffs, but his scar with a bandage on his forehead does take the shape of an H. Kate brainstorms names for the dog using names of famous pizza chains.
Little Caesar. Dogfather. Sir Dog of Pizza. Pizza Dog.
Clint talks about the tracksuit organization.
They started small, but grew. There's the guy at the top. He'll do anything to grow the operation.
I thought Maya was the boss.
No, there's someone above Maya. Someone you don't want to mess with.
Yes, this confirms that Clint knows Uncle, and he goes on to say,
Go in and hit the supplier on the other side, and then hit tracksuit up with management.
yeah, Uncle's supplier might have actually been that Mexican cartel that Clint slaughtered that was mentioned by Rhodey in Endgame. Clint also wonders,
Do you think that the tracksuits were after anything else at that auction? And it's pretty upsetting to think there might be stuff from the Avengers compound floating around out there.
yes, reminding us of that watch that the tracksuits did make it their priority to steal. I did think for a second that Ivan might have been wearing it, because he was wearing a gold watch. It is hard to tell, but obviously whoever really wanted this watch, maybe someone who values fancy
I mean,
finery
it's not
and
the same
cufflinks,
watch
is really
he's
gonna be the
wearing
key
for
to
sure.
unlocking this mystery. Eleanor's penthouse, we now see, has actually been reconstructed almost exactly from its previous state before it was all destroyed. Why rebuild it? Why so attached to this property? Well, that might be because
My great-great-great-great-grandfather built the building.
remember, at Derek's funeral, we saw a headstone for Russell Bishop, implying that this series is going to explore the Bishop family history and why they own this property for over a century and why Eleanor seems reluctant to give it up. Kate brings up listings from the Bishop security database on her mom's computer. Kazi works for a company called Sloan Limited. I doubt is associated with any of the random people named Sloan from the Marvel comics. It's likely
Yeah, I
just a shell
couldn't find
company
anything.
Eleanor put on the books to allow her to fund the tracksuit's operations discreetly. It also says the company was founded in 2011, right before Derek Bishop's death. Just another clue that Eleanor might have had something in the works before Derek mysteriously died off screen. Remember, in episode 1, Armand told her, implying that Armand believed Eleanor's success was actually due to an association with someone, probably Uncle Willie. Also on this list is the name Kemp M, which could refer to Michael Kemp, who in Daredevil Season 3 was a Rikers inmate from whom Matt Murdock tried to get information about Wilson Fisk's Albanian connections. And Jack extends the Ronin sword right in front of Clint's neck, from the right side of the screen to the left across Clint's neck, the same framing used to foreshadow Armand's death, we think, by this sword during the auction in episode 1. And we cut to black before Clint turns, making it still up in the air if Clint and Jack might have had a past relationship, and that sword might have indeed previously belonged to Jack before it belonged to Clint. One last detail that might be nothing, but I wanted to point it out anyway. During the closing credits, the cast names are all designed to have extending arrows from the letters. Most actors have both an up and a down arrow in their name, except 4 actors who only have down arrows: Jeremy Renner, Tony Dalton, Fra Fee, and Vera Farmiga. Perhaps a clue pointing to which characters might not make it out of this series alive. Clint, Jack, Kazi, Eleanor? Time will tell. Hey, you can support this channel by checking out our great merch options at NewRockstarsMerch.com. Follow me on Instagram.
All right. We made it through all of our breakdowns. We're caught up, guys. We're caught up with Hawkeye on both fronts. Yeah, some great pulls in here. Again, like, I'm trying not to let this get in my head to like this Mephisto thing from like WandaVision with Wilson Fisk, but my God, there's so many signs that are pointing to it. So many rumors for such a long time. It's hard to know what to believe anymore. And I'm trying, and you guys have seen like in the reactions, at least if you've watched them, that like, I haven't let it get to my head too much. I'm not, if it's not Wilson Fisk, I'll be disappointed, but it's not going to hamper my enjoyment of the show. I've never been like one of those. I have not been disappointed when my predictions have been wrong. I have not been upset or held it against any of the shows for my predictions or wants or desires being like not delivered upon, because the shows themselves, the art itself is doing its thing, and I appreciate that regardless at the end of the day. Aside from the Ralph Boner thing, that's the only thing so far that has like actually rubbed me the wrong way, because that felt like more of an insult than a joke to me. So like, yeah, aside from that, everything else, like, yeah, I'm perfectly fine. Hell, like I've even mentioned before, that even if Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield are not in No Way Home, it's probably not going to disrupt my enjoyment of the movie whatsoever. Would I like it? Sure. Is it seeming very, 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 very likely? Yeah. But if they end up not being in it, I'm not going to be hurt. I'm not going to be hurt. So, but man, I've said, like, my favorite Marvel proper property, like from that's come about since the inception of the MCU, I think might be Daredevil. So like, I just want that to come back, man. Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio, that pairing, they are MCU worthy. So if anything, bring those guys in. Let's do this. Let's make this happen. More than Andrew Garfield and more than Tobey Maguire, I just want Charlie Cox's Daredevil back, to be honest. Probably a hot take, but it is what it is, guys. What do you think of this breakdown? What do you think of the show so far? Sound off the comments. Let me know your thoughts down below. We'll carry on the conversation after the video. Feel free to join our Discord. We can talk about this and many other things there as well. Links to that and all my socials are down below. Before we go, I want to shout out our channel legends: Mandy Sherrod, Jason Coleman, Philly Vane, Yuri Korskov, Margaret Grace, Mary Bradley, Jeffrey Hale, and various abominations. Thank you guys so much for your continued support, and I'll see you guys next week with the next episode of Hawkeye. Take care, everybody.